I was sitting alone at my dining table when the phone rang. The caller ID showed the police station from my hometown, a place I hadn't seen in over 20 years. The man on the other end spoke in a calm but heavy voice. He told me my father was dead. He couldn't give me many details, just that my father had been found lifeless in his apartment, and that foul play wasn't suspected. That was all I needed to hear. Within an hour, I had packed a small suitcase, 3 days' worth of clothes and toiletries, and began the 8-hour drive back to the town I swore I'd never return to. My father wasn't a good man. Not even close. He was violent for as long as I can remember. When I was a child, I'd often watch him hit my mother, drag her around the house by her hair, or throw things at her until she collapsed. He worked 6 days a week, 9 hours each day, and every evening he came home angry. It didn't matter what set him off. The smallest thing could turn him into a storm. My mother shielded me from the worst of it, but when she died from illness when I was 12, there was no one left to protect me. From that day, his anger turned toward me. I stayed away from home as much as I could, sleeping over at friends' houses, sometimes even on the streets when I had nowhere else to go. That went on until I finished high school. After graduation, I took every cent I'd saved and left town for good. Life after that was normal. Small job, small apartment, small happiness. I met my wife. We had a son, and for once I felt something like peace. When I got the call from the police, I tried to tell my wife I'd be gone for a few days. It went straight to voicemail. I figured I'd try again later. The drive was long and quiet. When I finally arrived, the town looked the same, only older, smaller, emptier. Back then, the population was around 500. Everyone knew each other. It was less of a town and more of a community. But now the streets were cracked, the paint peeling, windows boarded. I could almost hear the ghosts of the people who used to live here. I found the police station easily. Old habits of memory guided me there. At the reception desk, I explained who I was. The officer nodded and escorted me to the chief's office. The nameplate on the desk read, Nelson Woodford. That name, it echoed in my head. I knew it from somewhere. Then, when the door opened and I saw his face, I remembered. We'd gone to high school together. He was a year younger than me, always eager to tag along. Always looking up to me for reasons I never understood. Thanks for waiting, he said. Good to see you again, man. It's good to see you too, Nelson, I replied, though my voice lacked enthusiasm. Head changed, taller now, built strong, a man who carried the weight of authority on his shoulders. First of all, he said, I'm sorry for your loss. When I heard who it was, I told them to contact you immediately. Thank you, I said, but we weren't close. I see. He paused, then continued. Let me get straight to the point. We called you here for 2 reasons: to explain your father's cause of death, and to ask for any information that might help our investigation. Investigation? I asked. You said it wasn't murder. That's correct, he said, but it's complicated. People in this town have been dying in strange ways lately. Your father was the 5th case. I frowned. Strange how? Nelson sighed. A neighbor complained of a terrible smell coming from your father's apartment. We went to check on him. The door was unlocked. Inside, we found your father sitting in a chair in front of the TV. He was dead. His body had a large hole in his chest. It looked as if something had burst out from the inside. My blood went cold. On his lap, Nelson continued carefully, among other remains, we found an object. What kind of object? I asked. A wooden mallet. A mallet? Yes, he said quietly. That's why we wanted you here. If you can stomach it, I'd like to show you the photos. I hesitated but agreed. He handed me a stack of printed photographs. My father sat lifeless in his chair, head tilted back, mouth frozen open, dry eyes staring at the ceiling. His chin and lips were crusted with blood and vomit. The next photo showed the gaping wound in his chest, skin torn outward, ribs shattered. And the final image, his lap. There, in a bloody heap of tissue and organs, lay a wooden mallet drenched in red. It didn't seem real. To me, it looked like murder, brutal, deliberate murder. As my mind struggled to process it all, Nelson spoke again. I know how it looks, but this is the first time we've seen something like this. Over the last 2 years, there have been 4 other cases, all the same. A hole in the chest, and something inside. Something that shouldn't be there. Nelson's tone grew heavier as he continued. The reason we don't think it's murder, he said, is because of what happened in the second case. A man named Andrew Morris. It happened right in front of a prison guard. His chest split open same way. No one touched him. I stared at him in disbelief. You're telling me something exploded out of his chest by itself? He nodded slowly. What came out wasn't a mallet, though. It was an unmarked bottle of whiskey. Andrew was an alcoholic. 10 years in prison for killing a man while driving drunk. He never changed. Even after release, he went right back to it. Crashed into a tree 2 weeks later, lost his license, ended up behind bars again. A guard saw it happen, his chest just burst open, and that bottle rolled out. My mouth went dry. What are you implying, Nelson? He took a deep breath. Every single victim so far, they've all had dark pasts. Secrets, sins, things they refused to face. He leaned forward and opened a folder on his desk. Inside were photographs of 4 other victims. First case, he said, sliding one photo toward me. Richard White, found in his car outside Nancy's bar. Hole in his chest. What came out? A tube of lipstick. Later we found out he was part of a human trafficking ring. Had women all over the Midwest. He set that photo aside and pulled out another. Third victim, Maury Clements. You remember him, we all went to school together. Found dead in his apartment. Same hole in the chest. This time, a child's doll, naked, burned. We discovered had been under investigation for child exploitation. Never got charged, though. I felt sick. Nelson wasn't done. Fourth was Glenn Morales, found in the park surrounded by syringes. His chest open like the rest. We suspect he was distributing bad drugs, the kind that killed dozens of homeless people around here. And then he paused. And the fifth was your father. I stared at the folder, my hands trembling slightly. You're saying these things, these objects are somehow tied to what they did? That's what I'm saying, he answered quietly. And the people here, they believe it's some kind of divine punishment. The town's gone mad. Everyone's confessing, apologizing, trying to make peace before something happens to them too. He leaned back and sighed. But I can't believe that. I need logic. I need facts. There has to be a reason behind this. I just haven't found it yet. Nelson stood up and escorted me out of his office. My mind was spinning. It all sounded insane, supernatural, impossible. But still something about it chilled me to the bone. As I reached the station's front door, one of the younger officers opened it for me. Just as I stepped through, he said quietly, "It's not because they did bad things." I froze. What? They didn't admit it. They felt no remorse. They lied to themselves. Call it God, or call it the universe, but denying what you've done, that's how you end up suffering. And no remorse. That's how you lose your humanity. His words followed me out into the cold evening air. The sun was setting as I drove to my father's apartment. The streets were silent. No kids, no cars, no laughter. Just the sound of my tires rolling over cracked pavement. I parked in front of the building. It looked the same as it always had, broken, hollow, dead. Inside, the smell hit me instantly. Rot, dust, and something sour that clung to the walls. The living room was dimly lit, the TV still frozen on a static image. The chair where they'd found him was gone, but the dark stain on the carpet remained. I stood there, looking at it. I thought I'd feel anger, or maybe closure. But instead, I just felt empty. Before leaving, I called my wife again. Straight to voicemail. I tried again. Still nothing. I missed her voice. My son's laughter. It had been days, or at least it felt like days, since I last heard them. I whispered, "I'll try again later," and locked the apartment behind me. As I got into my car, a strange feeling washed over me, a longing so deep it hurt. I wanted to go home. I needed to see them, to hold them, to remind myself that I still had something pure in my life. But as I gripped the steering wheel, my hands began to tremble. The longing grew stronger, so strong it felt like my chest was being pulled open from the inside. Tears welled in my eyes. My breathing quickened. The sadness wasn't fading, it was growing, expanding. I pressed a hand to my chest. Something was wrong. It wasn't just sadness. It was pressure. Something deep inside me twisted, pushing outward. I gasped, feeling pain spread through my ribs. My heart pounding so violently, it felt like it was trying to escape. And then, for just a moment, I felt free. The sound of bones cracking. A heartbeat stops. Silence. Later that night, the police received a noise complaint from the parking lot outside my father's building. They found my car, door half open, radio still playing faint static. Inside, they discovered the driver, head resting back, chest burst open from the inside. On his lap lay a small photograph, stained in blood. It showed a smiling woman, a young boy, and a man who never came home.